Hello and welcome to the New Leaf podcast for people turning over a new leaf in financial advice. Today we are joined by one of our New Leaf members, David Reed, talking about his illustrious career in financial services.
So I started with a grandiose company called Guardian on Exchange. There wasn't any such thing as financial services at that stage. Being the 80s, it was a bit of the Wild West really. There were things that weren't being done properly.
We talk about how he's diversified his business into will writing services.
I've just recently been on the New Leaf Will Writers course, which I thought was excellent, and I would encourage anybody who's new to the industry and trying to build up their client bank that perhaps that's something they ought to do. It's a great source of referrals.
And David shares his wisdom and advice for new joiners to the industry.
I think really put yourself in your client's shoes, and that's where you get the long-term relationship from.
This is a great episode if you're new to the industry and you want to hear what an experienced head has to say. So good morning, David. What we wanted to focus on first of all was thinking way back when. What was the moment that you decided to build your own financial services firm?
Gosh, there's a question, Sam. Going back a long, long way, obviously before you were born, I guess, but It was pre-Financial Services Act. So the Financial Services Act came in 1986. And really it was a case of what do I do after finishing school? My father thought that I would be a fighter pilot. I definitely didn't want to join the RAF. So at one stage I had to find a job fairly quickly. In those days, it was very easy to find jobs in banking or insurance. So I plumped for insurance because they gave me a salary plus they gave me luncheon vouchers every day.
Right, okay.
So that's how I started. So I started with a grandiose company called Guardian on Exchange, working in their annuities and life department. And as I say, there wasn't any such thing as financial services at that stage. The company was great. Great place to be a young chap just starting out. A lot of knowledge. Learned an awful lot from these guys that had been there for, donkey's years really. But the trouble with a traditional insurance company is that, you didn't actually move up the pay grade until somebody died. Then you all sort of went up a peg.
Sure.
So for a young guy in his sort of early 20s, the idea of being there for 25 years didn't really appeal. And I had a friend who'd gone and got a job with a American bank and finance company. And within 2 weeks, he had a business card that said he was an associate vice president. And that really impressed me.
Okay.
So it didn't take long for me to switch over to a finance company and get involved in secured and unsecured lending, which is where everything sort of started to sort of make sense pre sort of Financial Services Act. So I was in charge of basically working with a team of mortgage brokers effectively in the early 80s. My job was to lend them packets of money on secure second charges.
Yeah.
In those days, you couldn't get anywhere near 100% mortgage. So I think a building society would go up to about 75%, and we would go in with a much more interest-laden product, but get them towards 100%. So that was really my job, which I enjoyed, which I did very, very well. But I was always conscious that being the 80s, it was a bit of the Wild West, really. There were things that weren't being done properly. There's a lot of pressure to sort of prove cases that were, I would say verging on sort of fraud, really. Every application came in with paper, brown pay slips with the same handwriting on.
Right.
So I think my journey sort of developed from there, really. And I was offered a job in an insurance brokers in the southeast of England, a company that I used to sell money to. And effectively, I thought, this is good. There's more involved. So background of insurance that I knew, mortgage work. So I started as a mortgage broker effectively, and did that quite successfully. Again, wasn't very pleased with the way that the industry was sort of working. It really was the Wild West in those days, and corners being cut, no research as such. And I think it was just I was very lucky to sort of be taken under the wing of a mentor, effectively, who sort of said, well, we're going to start doing this job more properly. The thing she used to say was your appearance. So, don't go and see a client with white socks and when you haven't polished your shoes, that type of thing. Prepare for a meeting.
Yeah.
So that was the sort of start. And
Yeah.
So the plan has continued on that sort of frame, really. So I've still got clients from those days. And the business has developed. Obviously, as time goes on, compliance regime. I've been through quite a few different compliance regimes, and it's been a struggle getting there. But I think the industry is in a much better place. It certainly was there. There's much more information. There's much more trying to do things more efficiently and properly. And my major thrust has always been that client comes first and foremost.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So you talked about some of the challenges that you faced. Was there one in particular that you look back on and think that was the catalyst, me overcoming that, got me into this business?
I think initially, obviously started at a fairly young age. It was always very difficult to get clients. I think as you grow into your shoes a bit, it's easier to sort of pick up and have a rapport with perhaps more elderly and more wealthy clients than a young advisor going into the business. And I think really it was a focus that I don't think I'm the best salesman in the world, but I think in those days it was very much, well, if I have lots and lots of knowledge and I put everything together, that's a way that I can sort of get some sort of kudos with these people. And I think that's really where it came in, really. It's getting the knowledge, then you feel confident that you've got the knowledge. And if you reflect it and you treat your clients in the right way, then, they come on board.
And do you think that's an idea that's maybe changed over time, or do you think that will still be the same way in 20 years' time?
My major concern really is that, don't get me wrong, I think there's a dramatic need for technology within our industry, which is over the years has been sort of laden with red tape and paperwork. So I can see that there are some good advances with technology, but I think that fundamentally, if you're not seeing your client face to face, that has some issues for me. I think clients have got to first and foremost, and certainly could see some issues where people are quite distant from their clients. They don't have a personal relationship anymore.
Yeah. So would you say that personal relationship is something that made you stand out in a crowd to attract potential clients?
I think so, and I think it's a case of just going the extra mile.
Okay.
Probably come on to those later
What does that mean to you, going the extra mile?
Well, some examples, I suppose. I remember in the early days having several meetings with one particular client that would ring me sort of 5 minutes before the meeting, sort of saying, no, he's been rescheduled, he's now in America. One particular meeting going to his house sort of 40 miles away and waiting for him to turn up and sit there with his wife in the kitchen, and then starting the meeting at 10:30 in the evening, which then finished about 1 o'clock in the morning. But
so being flexible.
But in saying that, he's been a client for 25 years plus, and he's very, very wealthy. He's been a very, very good client. We now deal with, obviously, him and his children, clients as well. So I think putting in that extra mile to start with really does pay dividends.
Perfect. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about the challenges and maybe how you stood out from the crowd, and you've managed to nurture these relationships over the years. Looking back, is there kind of one particular decision or strategy that you employed that you would base a lot of your success on?
Really, I think you've got to be true to yourself. And I think the main thing that I've always done, and going back to the very early days where, seeing the Wild West and how things were done, where it was more commission driven, I think really put yourself in your client's shoes. So you could be in the shoes of an 86-year-old female who's got £200 in the bank, but you are giving advice. And so how would you feel if this advisor came in and started talking to you about this, that and the other? So I think that's always where you start from, and that's where you get the long-term relationship from.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the questions we were coming up to actually was looking at one piece of advice that you could give to a financial advisor or mortgage advisor coming up. I think you might have just given us the answer there. Put
Well,
yourselves in the client's shoes. Would you
yeah,
agree
and
with that?
I think if you're building a business that it's taken me a long time within the business to sort of focus on where we are and where we're going. But I think the main thing, if somebody is coming into the industry, they need to know that the marketplace is so wide now. They need to focus on the area they want to work in. Do they want to deal with the elderly clients, or do they want to be a mortgage broker, or do they want to deal with the younger set? And I think that you gear yourself up for your client. I mean, I think it's highly unlikely that I could go and, be very successful with 18-year-old people in their first job.
Yeah.
But I've set my stall out for dealing with, people pre and post retirement. So, I've dealt with solicitors, accountants. I know quite a lot about the process, and so I've been associated with groups where you might mingle with those people. So I think it's really setting out your stall, not trying to, don't throw mud on the wall, make sure some of it sticks. Focus on what you want to do.
Yeah. Okay then. And in your journey, I mean, you and I know each other well. You've been under a few homes, a few networks. So, do you think that being with New Leaf would help somebody to do that, set out their stall, carve out their niche?
Yeah, I think. So as I've been saying, I've been around for a long time. So I've been my business has been associated with several networks, and I think you probably remember when I first sort of met you, I said the biggest threat to my business is the network.
I do remember that, yeah.
And what I meant by that is that you've got to pick a perfect partner for your business. A lot of networks are very, how shall I say, constraint, very tough compliance regimes, which might suit some sorts of forms of business, but not all. Certainly, I think in the past that's been a problem with my type of work, that I'm dealing with, different structures for elderly people, which may not fit into a, compliance officer's book, and they're not prepared to look at it because it's not written down, it's not in a tick box. Okay. So I think you've got to be very careful who you partner with. They can be the biggest, break on your business. So you've got to feel that they're working with you. Speak to the compliance team. I'm going to write this type of business. Is that a problem? Don't just join something and find that is a problem. Yeah. So do your due diligence first, and certainly New Leaf have given us a new lease of life. I think we're quite excited about the future. We've got a good young team, and the compliance department are fantastic.
Brilliant, thank you. So that brings us actually perfectly on to team building and nurturing talent. From what you've done and supporting these clients for all these years, a lot has fallen on your own shoulders. But I noticed a slight change in your business recently, that there's a few more people coming on board. There's a few more developments. So would you mind sharing some of those?
Yeah, I think probably, like a lot of advisors, that you are very protective towards your clients.
Yes.
And that can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. And I think the other thing is that it's very hard to find the right people within business.
Yeah.
So I think I've been quite fortunate that, later on in life, that I've now acquired a very good team that sort of sit below me, including an assistant who's just gone through the power planning stage, is now an IFA in her own right. So she's slightly younger than me, so 10, 15 years younger. So she will attract a different sort of dynamic, I suppose.
Yeah.
But again, it's very much that it's been quite, this is the way I do things, this is why I do them this way. I mean, it can be interaction, but I think it's actually going back to, these are our customers, they've been customers for a long time, and this is why, and this is what they like. So I think it's very much bringing people on board.
Yeah. And having the confidence and the stability in your own business to take the time out to bring these people through. Yeah, you can't just throw them in the deep end.
No, very much. So Irina has spent probably the last 2 years coming out on, important client meetings. So she meets the client, she understands the interview process and to a certain extent, I suppose, the sales process. So she understands how I work and what we do, and I think it's given her a good grounding.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'll be very successful.
Oh, I completely agree. Yeah. So, moving subjects a little bit to technology, we actually met up at a conference
We
the
did.
other. I didn't know you were there. Bumped into you. It was great, wasn't
I
it?
thought it was a pub. Sorry.
I thought it was the pub. We were shown what used to be called. I mean, this sounds obvious, doesn't it? Used to be called the future, but it really is the here and now. The technology, the AI enhancements to process.
Yeah.
And I think on a stereotypical level, people might just assume that you wouldn't embrace those things because you talk about the people side of things and the way you do things, but actually they can actually help you do that, can't they?
Yes, I mean, not anecdote really, but when I started with the insurance company all those years ago in the early 80s, we downed tools one day. We had a big conversation. The life inspector came in and he said, we're going to have a thing called a computer. It's going to be on the third floor, and it's going to totally change the industry. I mean,
Wow.
that was 40 odd years ago, and I think there's been very little improvement in services and systems until what seems the last 12 months. But what can be done, looking at the conference we were at, I was really, really impressed, and I'm really excited about the future because it does, potentially it cuts out a lot of our, the mundane tasks that we do day in and day out, and it should give us more time in front of the clients.
Yeah. And you did actually share with me that between New Leaf and the technology, you can see yourself going for another 10 years. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, keep taking the vitamins. Let's see.
Okay. So, where are we on here? We've covered a lot of ground, actually, David. Let's
Sorry, I
have a
speak
look.
for England. Sorry.
No, it's perfect. Absolutely perfect. So we've looked at the bigger picture, looked at technology, looked at some of the challenges that you had coming
Yep.
through. And in this career that you've built and the longevity you've had, are there a couple of clients or scenarios you could maybe pull out for our listeners where you did go above and beyond or where there was a fantastic outcome? Yes,
I mean, I've talked about, sort of making sure that you try and accommodate when the client wants to see you. But as I say, I have quite a lot of elderly clients. And so we try and see ourselves as a safe pair of hands. And it's very difficult in this day and age. But we certainly mention to our elderly clients that if they get any strange phone calls or, any strange posts, that they pick up the telephone and they speak to us. And I'm sure that we've saved quite a lot of clients, quite a lot of money where they said, the Inland Revenue's phoned me.
Oh, okay, have they? Yeah.
Yeah, so
I need to pay my bill with Apple vouchers.
So yes, I think that's it's not even a service; it's second nature. You do that, and just recently we've unfortunately had an elderly client whose sister has been the two sisters live together. One of them has had a bad fall and is in hospital. And I normally just pop round to make sure that she's okay, and she's obviously suffering with things, and I think she's getting a bit more frail. So I've been able to sort of pass that on to people in her family to keep a closer eye on her, really, just make sure she's okay.
Wow. So that really is above and beyond, isn't it?
Well, I think it is, but I think we're all human. We'd all do the same thing. But it's just remembering that in my case, it's, perhaps I'm lucky that I've got to the stage that it's, my clients are my friends. So you do that for a friend, wouldn't you?
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Would you say that's a goal to get to the point where your clients are your friends?
If you're looking for a long-term relationship, I think if you've been doing the job for a while, you tend to know if you can get on with somebody or not.
Yeah.
And the good thing about New Leaf, you can always say, well, if you meet somebody you don't think you're going to get on with, you can always say, well, I'll pass you on to one of my colleagues at New Leaf, and
who might be a different...
It might be a different mould. We're all different, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I like that idea. Okay, then, so just to wrap up, the New Leaf podcast is all about turning a new leaf in financial advice. Mm-hmm. So for you personally, what does that mean? And also, what's one new leaf that you're turning over just at this moment in time?
Well, coming from a background of various different networks, it is quite refreshing to actually work with people that are sort of like-minded, really, and will listen to you and are interested.
And invite you on the podcast.
Yeah. There's no money involved, is there? But at the moment, I've just recently been on the New Leaf Will Writers course, which I thought was excellent, and I would encourage anybody who's new to the industry and trying to build up their client bank that perhaps that's something they ought to do. It's a great source of referrals because not only are you seeing somebody about a will or lasting power of attorney, but you need witnesses and you need executors, so there's names and addresses you can speak to and explain their role. I also think we've got a bit of a niche you've got a bit of a niche in the market that the way I built a lot of the clients were through professional connections, so with accountants and solicitors. Solicitors have always been hard work to get business from, and I've always sort of tried to refer wills and trust situations to solicitors, and I've just found recently that I think a lot of their business model is changing. So when I do my annual reviews with client and say, go through, we mentioned last time you were going to update your wills and lasting power of attorney. Have you done that? No. Or, in some cases, they haven't even made a will or lasting power of attorney. You go back over the last 5 years and they've been telling you that story for 5 years, they're going to get it done. And it's always the reason for I not doing it, I think, are that solicitors are very difficult to approach now. They only want to work probably 9 till 4 o'clock. It's very impersonal. They'll send you paperwork first rather than get a report. So the first thing you receive is their terms and conditions and the likely fee. So I think our approach is much better. I think solicitors now have to bill. One of the solicitors I use, I think it has to bill for every 15 minutes of the time. So it's very difficult to get someone and take them out to see a client. They won't do that anymore. So just recently I had a situation where there was a really complicated series of trusts that need to be written, plus a will. And the solicitor had to take the day off. So she'd meet the client, get the agreement with the client, then she could send the paperwork to her. So I think we're going back to New Leaf. I think we've got a really good opportunity to get in there and say, look, you've been talking about your will for the last couple of years. Would it be easy if I did it for you? And I think that's probably the approach that we should take, and I think would be highly successful.
Perfect. Sound absolutely why we have that offering for New Leaf members and third party members that want to join. We definitely think it complements what you're doing. So it's really good to hear that you've embraced that and turned over a new leaf there. And Irina's coming on the course as well.
Yeah. So there's a new course starting this week, and Irina's on the course. So there we go. So we're going to build a separate business as well, and of course, being the age of our clients, it really is going to dovetail into everything we do.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well, thanks, David. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Sam. Pleasure.